Okay, guys. I think it's working now. Yeah, it's working now, so we can start. Yeah, just a quick check. Confirm if you can see my screen. Awesome, cool. So let me launch my VS Code. So as we're going through that chat sheet, we won't practice some of those things, right? So I'll just navigate to my desktop and then open this guy, three dots. Yeah. Okay, yeah. That is up. Okay, this is lesson 4. So we'll be having our lesson 5 today. So as usual, I am not going to, I'll check out to a new branch, but I'm not going to check out from me. From lesson 4. From my last sessions, I believe you should understand. If I check out from lesson underscore 4, it means the new branch I'll check out into will contain content of lesson 4. So I will just switch to the main branch. So I'll do git checkout to main branch. Because the main branch has just the readme file. So from here, I can then create a new branch, git checkout, pass a -b. That's if you're creating a new branch, right? We'll call this lesson 5. All right. So this is our lesson 5. So I can create a folder here and call it lesson underscore 5. And then, oh, I created a file instead. So we can delete this. This is lesson underscore 5. So, but outside of the folder, I just want to create another file called recap. So this is file recap.js. So this inside this recap.js, we'll just do like a quick recap on some of the things we've covered, right? Using that what do you call it? That chat sheet. So maybe technically our last JavaScript session, like format JavaScript session, right? But we'll still be doing more of JS, right? That's why I want to run through that chat sheet. And yeah, okay. Just a quick check. Confirm you can still hear me and you can still see my screen. Awesome, cool. All right, so let's look at
Yeah,
this
I can
thing.
see your screen and I can hear you.
Wait, awesome. Thank you. So this thing contains JavaScript basic, it contains variables, it contains arrays, operators, functions, loops, if strings, regular expressions, these widgets, right? So, but during the course of our lessons, we've covered variables, array, operators, function, loops, if strings, and I wanted us to look at DOM today. So let's see what this thing. And the first page here, JavaScript basics. Okay, so this just talks about include JavaScript, how to write your JavaScript, right? So you can include it in your HTML file. So by including it in your HTML file, let's say you have like a recap.html, run my boilerplate. So this title I can change it to JS recap, right? So what this guy is saying is, including JavaScript in your HTML file, you can use this. That you can write your JavaScript in the head section, right? By head section, let's say this does not exist at all. So you can just use this script open tag, declare the type. So okay, it's text JavaScript, and then write your script, right? For example, could do something like, let's see from here, let e equal to 5 and let b equal to 10. Let c equal to these two, and then we'll do console. Let's see console.log, right? So if we open this JavaScript file, so this is the JavaScript file, check our console, you can see the values here, 15 from recap.html line 8. Okay. Was that bright? Was that clear enough? Let me zoom in. You can see 15 here from recap HTML line 8. You can see this is on line 8. So this is us writing JavaScript inside of a HTML file. But remember, like I said, JavaScript was built for web, right? So you can only, if you write it inside HTML, you can only run it inside a browser. That was why I opened the browser and I didn't run it inside the terminal. So, but if we're using this file, then with the power of Node.js, we can then run our JavaScript in the terminal, right? So yeah, basically that's what these guys are trying to talk about here. Call an external JavaScript file. So you can as well call an external JavaScript file. So all what you need to do is, instead of doing this, you can then do this. You can then do this. That's, you write your script. We've talked about all of this: script, src, source. This is where you now call in this recap.js, right? So let's say everything we wrote here, exit, let me delete this so that this file looks neat. Let's say everything we wrote there, I put it here. And then, but I'm not running it in the terminal, right? I called this file in HTML here, right? So if we go back to the browser where that file is running and reload it, it's still here. You can see recap.js line 4. I think that's even the way to run. So you can just see the recap.js. So it's the same code we ran in the HTML file. We brought it out and then we're able to run it here. Then finally, it's, yeah, that's all about this part. Yeah, Destiny, your hand is up. Shoot quick. Destiny, your hand is up. You muted if you
Okay,
talk.
sir. A question from the LMS. They say that the JavaScript should always come after the HTML have already run all its files. That means it should come under of the document. So that's the question I wanted to ask, because they say we can also put it in the header. So in the LMS, when I was going through the JavaScript, they say it should come after the HTML so that the browser will be able to read the HTML first before it will load the JS.
Yeah. So let me explain something quick, right? There's this concept called differ. Let's say I put this word here, differ. Okay, let me explain all these things. Basically, your browser run your code top to bottom, from the top to the bottom. This is what's happening here now. Let's say I don't put this thing here, right? And then we run this file. This is the first line of code I will run, followed by this. Like, it run it from top down to bottom, right? So on reaching here, this is what it's going to do. it is going to leave continue running that you have like more code down to now continue running before you can start running. Two things about one thing, yeah, two things. When it gets to this place and it leaves this environment, it leaves file to this one. So this file is very bulky, places like code, referencing other files. It means at that point, your application is going to slow because it's trying to fetch. That sometimes you open the website, you see it loading. It's because it's fetching data, right? From if it's like a bigger fetching data from your database, or APIs are yet to return responses. So it's still loading. So it's almost that same feel. Once you get to this stage, it leaves, once you get it, just leave this file completely and move to this one. Read everything here before it comes back and continue. Yeah, so most times learning they'll tell, oh, put this thing at the bottom so that it will read your HTML file before it leaves. But that's still not like a great experience, right? Because what if somewhere at the top here, right, you displaying some data that are coming from the JavaScript file? It means at that point the application will seem broken up until it gets that data to fit in. Almost similar to when you're trying to display an image. You open a web app, then you see all the content display, and then the image is now coming small. But it takes some time before it comes. That's like the content has been rendered, but that one is yet to arrive. You get. So they may tell you that put this guy at the bottom, because so the whole essence of that positioning thing is because of this concept I'm telling you now. Leaving this file and moving to that other one and be coming back. Before it comes back, there's like a break, right? So most times you just pass in this keyword diff file. Let me see if this is going to explain it for us. A boolean attribute, wait, let me see. A boolean attribute that's set to include browser script meant to execute after the have passed, but before I script will be passed will prevent the content even if I don't see script has loaded. So basically, the long and short do this async. Yeah, they could just leave it as async. So as async, it means that if you're reading this from top to bottom and you get to this place, yeah, go to file. And file all the data. As soon as you get to that point, don't about this file. Make sure you create that DOM, DOM, that document object model before you can even bother reading about this file. So div center, left, right, center, or whatever is just because of that behavior. I don't know if that makes sense. Does it?
Yes, sir, it does. Thank you.
I don't know if you're talking in
Thank you, sir. It does. Yes, sir.
Let me see what this is. Okay. This is a Boolean attribute indicating that the browser should, if possible, load the script asynchronously. This attribute must not be used if the src attribute is absent. So yeah, I don't know if you can see the description here. It has to read it asynchronously. That's both of them at the same time, right? So that would then now help, or that would then help the it will then help your application from not like breaking completely to go and finish reading that one before coming back. Yeah, I just hope that makes sense. Yeah, so but this I think we've treated all of these things when we discuss how and what how to write and run JavaScript, right? Then so in comment, so this is single line comment and then multiple line comment. I think you've seen me use comment most times. So if you're writing your JavaScript, so you could highlight everything, just control /command / for Mac users, right? So this is a comment, it means this is a non-executable line of code. But if you don't want to be having this / multiple here, that's where you could also do this. Oops. You could do this. So this is a comment, right? So you could just pick this last guy, dump it here. So this is a multiple. So anything right in between these two guys will not be executed. So that's comment. We talk about variables, var, const, let. This var, I think I say we should just forget about it. Just behave as though it does not exist, right? Because you would not see it in any modern application, and you're not advised to use it yourself, right? So it was a very most common variable declaration type, can be reassigned but not accessed within a function. Yeah, this is outdated sort of, right? So most times you see engineers using const or var, const or let, right? So this is actually what is recommended for you to use. We've talked about const. Say for const, you cannot be reassigned. For let allow you to reassign, right? Let's say maybe you have some, if you notice you've been using let here. So let me see. I now see that, okay, let's try this. Let me run this. This is node recap.js. Yeah, we have 15 here. So the value of C is 15. So let me see, I come down here and say, okay, let C equal to A multiplied by B. Yeah, by B. So at this point, okay, let me put this up here. Oh, sorry, I think my network is pretty bad today. I don't know what's happening. It was from my end, actually. It was from my end. My network just went off. Okay, so yeah, I was trying to explain let and const, the difference. So for short, I was like, let allows you to reassign, const doesn't allow you, right? So this is like a typical example of let A be. So at this point, let me run this and we'll see something is wrong. Sorry, let me see. Old JS recap, what is the error? Identifier C has already been declared. Oh, yeah. So I declared. So when you use let, it means that's like you're declaring this thing to be a variable. So I already declared C to be a variable. I'm now declaring it again to be a variable. If I want to reassign it, I don't have to say let again. I could just take this thing out. It's as good as saying that we started the conversation and I told you that I'm a boy. Then down the conversation, I'm still telling you that I'm a boy. Like, oh, you're writing, maybe you're writing an essay, you say, okay, Obi is a boy. So your next sentence could be like, maybe he school at, not Obi is a boy that school at. Already you've said he's a boy. So maybe the next one could be just he, or and then proceed, right? So basically that was what happened, and that was where this error came from. That identifier C has already been declared, right? So let me run this now. C. So you see the first value of C is 15. But we are able to reassign it again to be A multiplied by B. But assuming this guy was const, this guy immediately it will start throwing me errors. That's why you see my terminal, sorry, my code editor complaining already, right? That, oh, I can't do this. You see const C. So, but let me just try to run it. Let me act as though I do not see it. So you now encounter this error, assignment to constant variable, right? So you cannot reassign the value of a constant variable, but you can reassign the value of a let variable. So yeah, that's basically it. We talked about data type. We talked about numbers. We talked about strings. We talked about operations. Yeah, this is basically operations. And we talked about objects. And we talked about arrays. Yeah, these ones. So we have array has different methods, right? So these are like methods are more like operations that you can perform on an array, right? Let me wait, let's take that into. Oh shit. Come in, let me look for it. Just a second. Yeah, okay, found you. Okay, yeah. So methods basically are like operations that you can perform on an array. There's concat. This allows you to join two arrays. Let me just show us quickly what that is. Let's say maybe I have let me see, I have something like const array of array of male students. Then I can have another const array of female students. So these are an array. Const array of male students. I have the name John, Mike, David. All these guys are male names. Female names, we have Sarah, Emily, Jessica, excuse me, Sophia. All of these are female names, basically, right? So if you look at that chat sheet, that cheat sheet, concat allows you to join two arrays. You could come here and do something like array for male students dot concat this guy. Let me put it inside const all students. So const all student now, right? I'm saying this first array concatenate, like join the two of them now. So let me console log all students. Console.log all students. If I run this, you see it's going to bring John, Mike, David, Alex. This is John, Mike, David, Alex. John, Mike, David, Alex. It now added Sarah, Emily, Jessica, and Sophia, right? But there are better ways of doing this thing, right? So instead of even doing this, if you're building like a large application, I don't expect you to do that. I expect you to do something cleaner like this. This is called like you sprayed the first array, you sprayed the second array. Let me print this thing. You can still see it. John, Mike, David, Alex, Sarah, Emily, Jessica, Sophia, right? But yeah, this is like if you're going the basic beginner route, you use the there to do cat. But yeah, this is like if you're building a production application, I don't expect you to be doing this. I expect you to do this, right? So, and then index of, if you're finding index of an array, join index of last. So you can here check all these things. Pop, remove the last element of an array, push, add a new element. So basically, if you're looking at that push and pop, let's say I want to do something like, I want to add another name to this female student, right? I could do something like array of male students dot push. So I'll push Tom, right? So if I now console log, let me now console dot log array of male students. So if I console.log array of male students, let me run this. We pushed hello, can you hear me? Can you guys see my screen? Yeah. Cool. All right, so that is it for all those. So in case you see all these array methods, that's just basically what is meant. We talked about additions. Could you please mute? Okay, that's fine. Yeah, so operations we have talked about operation, addition, and all these guys. Comparison, we looked at all these guys. Logic operators, yeah. So logic operators, let me talk about these ones quickly. Logical operators. Let's say you have something like big sense. Let's just leverage on these arrays. We could do something like, we want to check if the length of these two arrays are equal. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. It has 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Both of them has 4 items in there, right? We'll do something like if, let me see, we have, this is and, this is all, this is not, right? So we could do something like array of male students dot length is great. No, I don't want to use greater. I want to use okay, I can see dot length. Remember we talked about dot length. Okay, dot length is equal to 4. And yeah, okay, good. Let me try to use this. So this is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to write conditions here that if the length of array, this male student, by length, I'm referring to the number of items in the array, 4 to 4. This is one condition, right? And so you have two conditions. Then it could be like for the program to continue running, the two conditions must be met. That's where you now use this and. That's if the number of item in the male student array is equal to 4, and the ones in the female student is also equal to 4, then console log both elements are 4, both arrays have 4 elements. Let me add an else to this thing. Don't want to use an else if. So let me just go ahead. But if else, that's if this thing is true, this for you to get this output, it means for and now, this side must be true, and the left side, the right side also must be true before you get the result. Once one of this side is false, it is going to fall here. Let me take that again. The left side of this logical operator for and now, it means that the male student must be 4 and the female student must be 4 for you to get this output. So now that we have both of them 4, let me run it. Let's see. The output is both arrays have 4 elements. Okay, let me come up here and remove one of these. So I've removed this one. So this one now has only 3 elements. This one has 4 elements. So you can see that the left side, this condition is false. So this condition is false, right? Because the number of students in the male side now is 3 only, because I've deleted 1, but I was checking for 4. But this one is true. So this side is false, true. But his one side is false. We are not going to get this output. We are going, this is what is going to print out. Let's run this. You see the output, you see. One or both arrays do not have 4 elements. So one of them do not, or both of them do not have, right? So, but if you change this thing now to this bar sign, which signifies all, as long as one side is true, it is going to tell that it is true, right? So if I run this thing now, you see it's going to tell me that both arrays have 4 elements. Both arrays have 4 elements. It's giving us this one. So the simple, I'm looking for like a typical, yeah, but I just want to believe that makes sense. So for and, the 2 conditions must be true. For or, one of them has to be true, right? Then the other one, not, this is not, it's just like or you doing something like if you could say something like let is male equal to true, then you can just come back here and say if not is male, console.log the student is female. So is male is true. So introducing this not, it means you have negated the value of this guy. If I run this thing now, let me see. Okay. Let me comment out all these guys above here. Let me add an else and say, okay, console.log the student is male. All right. So yeah. So for example, I run this guy, you see it's going to tell me that the student is me because me is true, but not is me means that is false. So if this guy now is false, if it is false, it means not is me. If I run this guy, you see student is female. You now getting this. I don't know if that makes any sense. Yeah, Destiny.
Okay, sir. Sorry, I like asking questions. So you say so now what I want to ask is you say is mail. That means in JavaScript you have to like be specific. You cannot just use any let's say variable or any word. You have to be like specific so that the JavaScript will know. Like for the ismail now, it's because of you use ismail. That's why JavaScript was able to know that if it's not a male, then it's a female. Or are you the one that will declare that if it's not a male, then it should be a female? Because over here you did not declare it. You just say um cancel dot log the student is male. That means if the what am I explaining?
As you talking, I was looking for like a very so basically what I want you to understand is once you introduce this not, you're referring to the opposite side of the thing.
Okay. Is it
That's
email?
if this particular example is confusing you, don't think about it too much. This is I just want you to take one thing. The one thing I want you to understand is once you introduce that exclamation mark, it means you're referring to the negative side of something. If you're dealing with good, I may just bring that exclamation mark. It means what you're now looking for is bad things, no longer good things. It just negates things, basically, right? That's just what I want you to take. All right. So yeah, I will share this thing. You could look at it and try to also play with it and do your own research. Basically, all these things. So yeah, what I want us to look at today is basically this document object model. And for DOM, I will just pick out some key things. So let's say we are dealing with DOM here, which means document object model. So basically, what happens is anytime you run your project, the browser builds like a tree of your content, right? Let's say maybe I come back to this HTML file. This is a good one. This is a good example. Let me see. And let me just comment. Let me remove this actually and just have only title here. Title recap. Let's say we will have like a H1 called recap, and then we have like a P1 here, a P1 here. So if you refresh this file, so this is what we just typed here, right? So this is how the browser read this file. It builds like a document model. That's what we are referring to as a document object model. It sees this thing as let me try to build it here. So it just look at it sees like, okay, this is a doc. Let me see. Okay, this is like a doc type of HTML. It sees this guy, a doc type of HTML. And then inside it, it now looks at the HTML element itself. So there's like a HTML, then so it just build like a document model. So there's like a head, yeah, something like this. So this is just basically what it built. A doc type, this like HTML. Inside the HTML, you see the head and the body. The body has like a H1, a P1. We are not using div and buttons here, so I'll just take this guy out. So right, so this is basically what it builds. So then you can as well, because it builds things like this, right? So this is what is referred to as the document object model. So by the manipulation now, it means we can then use JavaScript to manipulate all these things. We can use JavaScript to inject values in there, or we can use JavaScript to change colors. We can use it to do literally anything here, right? So maybe if you look at this typical example here, let me uncomment this. So there are basically different ways of um of I'm trying to make this thing as simple as I can. So there are basically different ways of reading the values. Let me, sorry, to make this neat, let's use our folder here. So let me call this lesson underscore 5.html. Let me keep this clean. And then let me create a JS file inside as well. Lesson underscore 5.js. Okay, let me split this. Yeah, I want to keep it side by side so that our HTML is this side, our JavaScript is this side. Yeah, to do that, it's just this split here. You can use it. All right, so let me paste this thing here. So now, this is our HTML document. First, we need to link it to our JavaScript file, right? So let's say maybe I come here and then I do script. Let me see, I do scripts. So there's a shortcut in writing this thing. How do I use to write that? I think it's scripts.src. src. You hit exactly, yeah. No. Forgotten those shortcuts. Yeah, but I'll check them out. Okay, but yeah, this is what we want to do. Just to link that file. This is not supposed to be here. This is supposed to be our src. And then this should point to the file. Let's check to be sure. So anytime you're working like this and you want to be sure this file was connected, email you put in this line, could just come to this file and do a simple console.log, anything at all. Could be hello world, right? Let me stop the other file that was running and run this one. So I'm doing this one. Yeah, so may you connect these two, like I was trying to explain. Email you connect this to this. So the only way you can check if this was successfully connected to this, you could just print anything in your console, right? And then once you open that file, just come check your console to see if it's here. Once you see it here, you know that yeah, it was successfully connected. But let me make an error here. So you see, okay, let's say maybe I mistakenly did this. This is the file. So you can see it is not connected. You can't see the output. Right. So, but if I did this correctly and then come back to this place, let me refresh this, you can see the output here in my console. So that's like an easy way for you to check to be sure that those two files were actually connected, right? So yeah, let's say maybe we'll have like our H1, for example, here called without root. Okay. uh, welcome to student, welcome to the student portal, right? So with our JavaScript, we can locate this thing, right? We can locate this thing, this element, and then even change the contents that are here, right? Let me change this thing to welcome to lesson 5. So if we check our output, this is what we have, welcome to lesson 5. So let's try to use JavaScript to change that. So you can do something like this. You understand what const is? We're only trying to declare something. Heading is just a word we are using. Our variable name, it starts with document. Remember, like I was trying to explain, the whole of this is a document, right? Dot query selector. So we have different kinds of selectors, right? But let me just start with this basic one. Then I'll list all the other ones, and then we could talk about each of them one after the other. Just a second. Okay. Yeah. So now we have targeted this thing now, the H1 tag, and then we can say, okay, heading dot text content. We want to change the content of these two. Welcome to the student portal. Let's see if this is going to work. Let's come back to this place and refresh it. Okay, let me see if, let's remove the text completely. That didn't work. Fine. Awesome. Good. Yeah, but it's easy to confirm, right? So first thing we can do is we can just come here and console.log. Let's see what we got first. Heading. Let's comment this guy and see. Let's check our console. None. It means it didn't fetch anything, right? Okay, I think we used the wrong selector. No. So it's basically what is returning is null, but I was expecting it to get this for us, right? Let me try this and see. Let's see, we see get element by ID. Let me give it by ID called heading. So let me come here and give this guy an ID called heading. Let's see. Oh, I think I like this. Let me see here. Okay, let's do value of heading. And then just to be sure, this guy is okay, it's actually connected. So let me see. Value of heading is null. Oh, so what are we doing wrong? What are we doing wrong? What are we doing wrong? Okay, sorry. Let me do this. Okay, it's not what I'm thinking. Good, it's what I'm thinking. Yeah. So, Destiny, this now brings us back to that question you asked earlier, and I was trying to explain to you. So, look at what's happening. Let me remove this keyword. So, like I was trying to explain to you earlier, This thing run from top to bottom, right? So it read this first file, second line, third, fourth, fifth, sixth line. When it get to this place, it leaves this line completely, and then it moves to this file and read all the content, right? So because when it got here, it didn't get access to this particular ID, right? So initially, everything we wrote earlier was correct. Let me put this back to value. Let me just put it to heading. To heading. Wait. Yeah. So when it gets to this place, to line 7, it moved to this whole file. It read this whole file and console log null, because at this point it didn't know what I was referring to. That's why if I come here and then I refresh this guy, let me comment this one too and refresh this guy. I'm getting null because at this point it do not know what this thing is. Let me just pick this script without changing anything and place it at the bottom here and go back again and refresh this thing. Can you see? It now fetches that value. So it means that at this point, it has read this file from top down to this place. It now has this thing in memory. So at this point where it leaves this file to the JavaScript, and I'm trying to tell it to console log this H1 for me. It's able to console log it here. But if I place this thing, let me take it above, just above it, and come back to this guy, just reload. You can see it's still giving me null. Let me take it back to the heading section, right? And then add the keyword async. Remember, async, it means read the two of them side by side. Let me come back to, it did not give me null again. Does this answer your former question? Does it make sense now? The question you asked me earlier, Destiny.
Yes, sir, it does. That means for me to, if I'm to put my JavaScript at the header, I need to add async so that it's able to run it
Yes,
side by. Okay,
exactly.
sir.
So if I use differ and come back to this place and refresh this thing, see here. So it's either you do async or you just differ it. But yeah, on a day-to-day, let's just async. So, but without this keyword now, and I come back here, this thing is going to give me null because it left the file before it got down to that place, right? Makes sense. I think that was a very good mistake to make. All right. So now that we are able to read this, let's say we want to change the content of that text. So let's try that here and see. Let's leave this. You can now see, we have started using our JavaScript to manipulate. Or this is the original content. Welcome to lesson 5. Let me comment this. Welcome to lesson 5. This is the original content, right? But now we are using JavaScript to change that content to welcome to student portal. So you can then build an application such that yeah, you could do something like this. We can put in a button here. You could say click to change content. Click to change content. This is the button. Click to change content, right? So we could do something like we can put an event. We can target this button, right? We could do something like, okay, const. We can say, okay, const btn for button is equal to document dot query selector button. So we can then put an event. We can say btn dot add event called click. So we could do something like this. This is what we're trying to do. Let me get rid of this. Mine come up. All right, good. So this is what we're trying to do here. Right? We use query. So basically, we're using these query selectors to select elements in this file, like on the document, to like pick things inside JavaScript, right? So we use first the heading. We first picked like the H1 tag. We have a button. We are now also targeting that button using BTN. So we say document or query selector pick the button element. We're saying you pick the H1 element, right? Let me remove this one. I'll explain this too. So we now said, okay, button dot add event listener. Click. Then this is an arrow function. We talked about arrow functions, right? So when you click that button, heading dot text content should be changed to welcome to student portal. This is what you're trying to do. So the H1 by default, what it has is welcome to lesson 5. That's the content. If we click on this button now, you see the content has changed to welcome to student portal. So that's the brain now. The brain has now started acting, right? So we could still have another button. Yeah, this now makes sense. Now we have two buttons. Let me come back and do change. Let me call this one change text back. Let me call this change. What is the word? Change text to default. Let me say to default. Yeah. So now this is the conflict part. This is a button. This is also a button. So both of these buttons now will start acting up, right? So that's where you can then introduce another selection method, right? So maybe just to have like a clean approach to work, we could then maybe give this one IDs. We can call this one ID of change text and call this change text. Okay. So we can call this one, we can give it an ID of change text. We can give the second one another ID, default text. So instead of just using these generic query selectors, we could use, this is an ID now, we can say, okay. Yeah, so query selector, basically it's, the guy is like universal, right? But if you want to specifically use or fetch by ID, you could use method like get element. Let's get element by ID. Yeah, there's this method get element by ID, and then now passing the ID. This is change text. So we'll call this change text button, and then we'll have default button, right? So we can now put another event listener here for the default. Okay. This is close. So we call it, yeah. So the default text is welcome to lesson 5. Put this back here. So now we could do something like this. So by default, this is the text that is going to be displaying. Welcome to lesson 5. That is what is in our HTML. Welcome to lesson 5. Well, now did, okay, we target the heading element. We now targeted this button and then this one. We saved it as change text button and default text button. So we added events to each of those buttons. So if you click on this first button, which is the change text button, it changes the text content to welcome to the student portal. If you click on the second one, which is change text to default, it returns it back to welcome to lesson 5, right? So let's test our program. So if you click on click to change text, we now have welcome to student portal. If we click on change to default, we now have welcome to lesson 5 and toggle. Yeah, so this is basic. So with this, you can do a lot of things, right? You can as well change colors. You can say, okay, change button text dot we have style. Yeah, the style dot background color is equal to blue. So let's see. You see the background color is now equal to blue. We could do things like change button text color to text. You can see the color is now white. Let's see, you can even do change button text dot style dot height to be equal to let's say 50 pixel. Makes sense. You can see it's very big. So basically, all these things we can just easily do them with CSS, right? But yeah, our today's session is DOM manipulation, right? That's why we're trying to manipulate the document object model using JavaScript. So you can actually do a lot of things with this DOM. You could manipulate things a lot with your JavaScript. You could change things. You can even build small, maybe it could be like a calculator app or something. Right? Yeah. So I don't know if there's any question. Any question? Yeah, Destiny shoot.
Okay, so my question is, for that, the particular system is not working like that.
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Let me just start the question.
Okay. Okay, so I think maybe we should just build one small project, right? Let's build one small project before we end this call. So let me close all of this and create another file here. Let's build what? Let's build what? Let's build what? Let's try to build a calculator. So let me call this calculator. Good. Yeah, so we are going to be doing, we have cal.html. We should also have cal.css. Then we now have cal.js. Let me see what the time is. Okay, we still have a few minutes. So for this guy, let me just create the boilerplate. So I'll call this our calculator. Right. Okay. I think this seems to have a web preview. Yeah. Cool. So that we can be seeing our work. And drop it here and open it. Yeah. Yeah, this is fine. Okay, this is fine. Yes. So let me see. Let me be sure this thing is working. I want to build this thing as quick as possible. Let me refresh. Okay, yeah, it's working. Cool. All right. So to build our calculator, I will first write the HTML, right? And then we'll write our CSS. So for the HTML, it's just going to be very basic. we can put this thing in a container, right, called div. So everything is just like in a box. Okay, let's check my part. Okay, yeah, I've actually not added the CSS files and the HTML files as well. Yeah. So then we'll put it in a box. Let's give it an ID. We'll call it calculator. So this is our box. So inside this div now, we need like an input tag on top, and then we could have buttons below. So we could do something like we have an input tag that text. Let's give it an ID of display. So I'm using this keyword disabled, right? Let me refresh this. So this is the input field. Let's say I remove this guy. Let me refresh. You'll be able to type inside of this place. But I don't want you to type here, right? Usually you don't type on this. So that's why we are now using this attribute called disabled. So with disabled, you won't be able to type anything inside of this place, right? So you can have another div below. This div now will contain our buttons. Yeah, so let me show us a quick shortcut. This is what I want to do. Let me do it manually first, and then I'll use the shortcut so that it will make sense. Let's say I create a div. So manually you do div, and then you come inside here. I want to create like a class. So this class will help me style them, called buttons. That took me a lot more seconds to do. But if you're building, you don't have that luxury of time. I'll do this div dot buttons. And then you see automatically generated the whole component. So this works across all, just one line. I don't understand what you mean by where. Okay, so another thing now, I want to create my buttons, right? So I want to create, let's see, I want to have 1 and 2. Let me see. Okay, let's say I need 2 buttons. I could do button as the 2. And you see, I have 2 button components generated for me. Let me split it so you can see. Yeah. So let me just put, I want this to have just 1, and then we'll have 2 here. And then we could put like a plus here. Let me put another button here and put like maybe equal to sign inside. And then let me put another button here. Oops. Button. For this one, let's put clear here, like to clear. So let me see if I reload this. So these are our buttons, right? For now, it looks pretty ugly. So let's link our CSS file, put small CSS inside. To link our CSS, how did you do that again? Use link, right? Link. So our CSS is called cal.css. Okay. So this is our CSS. So let me keep these two side by side as well. So that we'll be seeing what we are doing for the CSS. So first we have calculator. Remember IDs, your ID selectors, you use hash. We'll define everything about calculator here, right? Let me see if this suggestion this guy is giving me makes sense. Okay. Let me just write it one after the other so that we understand. So we have width, we could give, so width is just like the width of our calculator, right? Let's say we could give you something like 200 pixels. Um, yeah, it's not showing here yet. Then let's see, maybe we'll try giving it like margins. Um, so for the concept of margin, so let's say I have 20 pixels. So this margin is going to apply to the top, to the bottom, to the left, right, to the left and right, right? So you see this thing moved here. Maybe I give it like, let me give it an obvious margin. Let's say 200 pixels. You see, it's going to give 200 to the top, 200 to the left, 200 to the bottom, and 200 to the right, right? Basically. So that's what it's going to do. But let's say I want this guy to be positioned in the center. I could just do this. Margin auto. 0 auto, right? Then, okay, let's try, let's put border to this thing so that we see what we are doing. Okay, this is border. So this is by one, I'm referring to the thickness, solid. Let me refresh this. Okay, you can see. All right, let's put the padding of 20 pixels, 10 pixels. So what does padding does? If you notice now, this input field is touching the walls of this block. So padding just gives space here, to give a space here. Like don't touch the wall, like shift. So padding here, this is also going to be applied to the top, to the bottom, to the left, and to the right. So let me refresh this. You can see top, left, right, and all, right? So this solid, let's say maybe I gave this thing to be 2. You see, it's just this thickness of these lines. You can see it's now very thick 2, but I want it to be 1, right? That's why it's a bit faint. Solid, I think you have other options. There are, what other options again? Man, I don't want to think. Don't want to waste time. But yeah, there are other options. Then for this one is you pass the color, right? Let's say maybe I choose red color. Let me refresh this. You can see this thing is now red. So the last value is just like the color of, but let's give it CC. So maybe we also want line colors. So if you want to curve the edges, that's where you could do something called, I think, border. Is it border reduce? Yes, border reduce. Let's say we have 25 pixels. So this is going to curve the edges. Curve, you can see them curved. So if it's too curved, you reduce it to 15. It's even too much. To 5. Yeah, this is it. We are not doing CSS session. Let's try and wrap up this thing quickly. This, so now that's enough for the div. That's the main container now. So we have the display. This is the display, the input field, right? So we could come here, hash display, poly bracelet, could give it. So if you notice, it just stops here, right? So can give it a full width. Right? Let me just take these suggestions I got here. Let's see if this is gonna work fine. Let me do 90. So this is because of the padding. That's why you see it overlapping outside. Let me comment this padding. You see, if I reload this, okay. Let me see where is it coming from. Oh, this has a padding as well. Yes, I'll call you back. I'm in the meeting. I'll call you back. So text aligned to the right. Text size, let's say this is 14 pixels. Let me just give this guy 90. Don't want to stress myself now. Stop. Selectify. Okay, yeah. Okay, that's enough for that screen. So then let's look at our buttons. So this is buttons. So if you notice, for IDs, we start with hash. For buttons, we use a dot. Because this is a class, you use dot. For IDs, you use hash, right? So we can say, okay, we want to have a display of grid. So you have grid, you have flex. We could take a look at some of those things, right? So I can say, okay, I want to have grid template columns of let me see, repeat. So basically by repeat, I said I want to have 2,1 FR. Let's see. Yeah, so I want to just have 2 elements, 2. So I want to have 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. That's why I see each of the row has just 2, right? Then I can do something like a gap, because you see the buttons are touching each other. I could say, okay, put a gap of let's say 5 pixels. 5 pixels. Let me refresh this. You can now see the gap. Our calculator has started coming out. So I think this will be enough for our CSS. This is okay. Let's put some brains into this guy now. So that's where our JavaScript will come into play. So let's keep this side by side as well. We will have JavaScript here. Okay, next thing is to connect our JavaScript. So put script source cal.js. And then we'll now add in our async. Right? Does this allow us to inspect? Yeah. Console. So let's check to be sure if this guy was connected. Console.log. Hi. Yeah, can see hi. So it means it was connected successfully. Okay, back to our DOM manipulation. First things first, let's grab this display. Where is the display? The display is an input field. We give it an ID called display. You can do something like, okay, const our display is equal to document.get element by ID, and the name of that ID is called what? Display. So now I've grabbed that one. So we can write in functions, right? Let's use the normal long function. We can call this like what should I call it? Append to display. Append to display. Okay, let me just call this append to display. That's like, I want this, basically what I want this function to be doing is, I want this function to be, currently, if we press 1, it doesn't show here, 2 doesn't show here. So I want this function to be putting values on the screen, right? So this is how we write functions, right? It begins with keyword functions, the name of the function. So, but I want this function to accept values and then put display it there. So that's where we'll put in value. So it should accept parameters. I think we've done this. So we can then do something like display dot what is it called? Display dot value, yeah. Display dot value is equal to I think we did plus and equal to value, for example. Yeah. So let's try this function and see how this function is going to work first before we try in other stuff, right? So let me come to, let's see, let's come to number 1 here. Here, we could just go straight and do on click. That's on click. It's an event. When you click on it, I want you to call this function. Call this function called display. And then this function is expecting a value. So what is your value? This button is holding number 1, right? So pass in, sorry. So I'm using single quotes. Pass in your number one. So let's see. Okay, where's this? One. Can see one appearing here. One. So that works, right? So it means we can then use this function here as well. We just copy this guy and paste it here for number 2 and say, okay, this is 2. So if we want, if you click, okay, let me refresh this. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 1, 1, 1. Nice. So now we are able to display on our screen. So the next thing now is let's also append this plus sign, right? So append to display. Let me copy all this, put it here. But this is not a number, this is a plus. So we could do, let me refresh this. Oh, it's working. So we could do 1 plus 2. So the next thing we're looking for now is equal to. All right. Let's write the one for equal to. So for equal to, let's write a function. So basically, what the function would do is just to evaluate the values on the screen. Like just do this evaluation. I want to keep it very simple so that what's the time? Okay, we are 6 minutes late. So we have something like function. Let me call this car. Calculate. 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 Doesn't sound good. Let me just call it sum. Right. So what this guy is going to do for me is I just want it to do display. We know what is display, right? Display dot value. So I want to change the value on that display, and I want to use this keyword evaluate. Display dot value. Yeah, I think this should do. Yeah, this should do. So let me put a click function here. Let's see. On click, I want you to call sum. Oh, let's see if this will work. So let's have 1 plus 2 equal to 3. It worked. Okay, let's work on this clear. This clear is just basically to wipe the screen. That's all. So we could just have a very simple function called clear screen. Clear. Let me just call it clear. Hope clear is not a keyword. This one is. It's a keyword. So let me see. Let's call it clean display. It doesn't sit well. Let's see clear display. So what this guy will do is just display dot value. It will just set it to nothing. That's all. So let's refresh. Clear. Yeah. Okay, we need to put a click function here. On click, call this function called clear display. Can we call it clear display? Display. Okay, let's see. Clear. Nice. So can do 11 plus 21. That should give us 32, right? Equal to 32. Clear. 222 plus 1 Should give us 2. Clear. Yeah, so we have successfully built our calculator, and that will be like all for today's session. I don't know if we have any question. Can shoot. Thank you. Any question? So I can just push this guy. It status. Git add. Future is lesson 5. It's push. Git push origin. Lesson 5. Yeah. So I've pushed this as well. So, yep, that'll be all for today. Thank you so much, guys. I don't know if there are any questions you want me to answer, because I think at this point we are trying to wrap up with JavaScript small, so that we can move to other things. Yeah, so if there are no questions, I want to believe that was very clear. Thank you. Bye.